Welcome into this beautiful Monday morning edition of Pushing the Pile.
Victory Monday.
Big time Victory Monday. If you're an NFC North faithful,
woo!
Welcome to the best division in football right here.
The black and blue division.
Yeah, one of the two undefeateds didn't even play, but 3 blowouts across the Lions, across the Packers,
across the pond,
and across the pond. There you go. With the Chicago Bears. So we're buzzing a little bit on this Monday morning, but a team that's not buzzing in our first off the ball segment, the Dallas Cowboys. Objectively unbuzzing after an undressing at the hands of the Detroit Lions, 47-9. And that was accurate. That about summed up how close it was. It wasn't a fake 47-9. It was the Dallas Cowboys didn't show up and the Detroit Lions did. But Jerry Jones post-game says this: I'm not considering a change in the coaching position. Are you considering?
There's a lot to unpack here for the Cowboys. For a team that has these stars, it's a star-laden roster, right? You look at the defensive side of the ball, and they've got big-time, expensive pass rushers. They've got names on the back end. And then, obviously on the offensive side of the ball, it's Dak, it's CD, and a number of guys. They've lost some guys up front, but it's just like this team cannot afford to be unhealthy. And when they are unhealthy, it rears the ugly head of lack of depth and lack of solid position players around those stars. And, when you're without a guy like Micah Parsons, your defense is going to take a dip. And, we saw Aiden O'Connell go down for the Detroit Lions yesterday. But the difference between those two teams is Aiden Hutchinson. What did I say? Aiden O'Connell?
Aiden O'Connell, yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, you'll see on your mind.
I do know the difference. When you have a roster like the Lions, you can afford one or two of these injuries to your big players because you've built your team the right way. The roster's been constructed. And I also just love the coaching staff in Detroit. But for Dallas and Jerry, birthday boy, there's a lot of decisions to be made here. I mean, Mike Zimmer, Mike McCarthy, big contracts. What do you think is going to happen, Mike? Do you think we're going to see? I mean, I think that there's no other option but to change coaches at the end of the year.
Well, that's the thing. They're 3-3. They're still in the thick of the NFC. It is early on. However, they're 3-3 and very easily could be 1-5 at this point. Like they snuck away with the win against the Giants, snuck away with the win against the Steelers. And this is their second blowout loss of the year. They got blown out week 2 against the Saints. And really, we're kind of getting blown out against the Ravens. Only made that a respectable game right at the end. But what were they down 28-3 or something in that game?
It's been ugly the whole year.
So they've had games just completely get away from them in their 3 losses. They just were not in it, truthfully, for the vast majority of those games. And so I think we said this a few weeks ago. It's maybe not necessarily all Mike McCarthy's fault. The personnel, as you mentioned, the drafting, the depth at certain positions isn't there. And they kind of
red
just
zone turnovers.
And when you are in a position where they just didn't add to this roster over the course of the offseason, where you're letting some of your best players walk out the door. Now, Tyron Smith maybe was prescient not to give him the contract they did, but it's also just like, you didn't add anything. So what did you expect? You didn't have an area to point to where it's like, oh, we got better there. So then why'd you think you got better this offseason? Injuries have reared their ugly head, but that's every team. They just haven't backfilled because, well, they don't have the talent to do so.
Yeah, and I don't feel like they really have belief in Dallas like they have in years past.
Yeah.
Like every year, what's the line? This is our year. This is the Cowboys' year. Well, it just hasn't felt like the Cowboys' year from the very beginning. No matter how much Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb are on the same page, no matter how prolific that offense is, in every 2-minute scenario we see them in, the football team just isn't good enough in Dallas. And it kind of sucks to see. Part of me wants to poke fun at the Cowboys because they are the easy heel in the NFL, and people for years have enjoyed, giving the Cowboys shit. But at the end of the day, this league's about parity. This league is about being competitive week in, week out, regardless of who's on your schedule. And quite honestly, the Dallas Cowboys, they're not competitive. And they played against a team that I think is the best in the NFC, in the Detroit Lions. And it showed why yesterday. I have that opinion.
All right. We're going to take a quick break after that. Going to get to all the games from the weekend that was.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield. Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
All right. It was kind of a tame week 6, I'll say. The witching hour didn't live up to the normal hype of the witching hour.
Wasn't
A lot of
very witchy.
blowouts, a lot of bad matchups this week, but one that was a good matchup and I think played out fairly well, just from a watchability standpoint at minimum. Commanders and Ravens.
Yep.
Obviously, the Ravens prove they're still one of the top dogs in the NFL with a 30-23 win. Really flex their muscles, in my opinion, like on the defensive side of the football. That's where this game, that was the difference. It was, if you came in this game with the Lamar versus Jaden slant on the things, right? And there was everyone. And I saw actually, there was this great tweet that I have to shout out because it was great in like a terrible way. It says,
was an RG3
this
tweet?
guy, Kevin Erstreicher, who I think does Locked On Ravens. He says, it's sad that Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels are being pitted against one another. Why can't we just enjoy both?
What are they supposed to do? Hold hands out there? I mean,
I thought I'll
say this. Lamar asked for Jaden's jersey after the game. It was warranted. Jaden Daniels lived up to the hype. He elevated himself in the moment, played a really good game. I would argue that he played better than Lamar Jackson.
That's what I say. I don't think Lamar beat Jaden. I think
it's the Ravens football team being a better football team.
Exactly.
And look, the Washington Commanders, we have all fallen in love with Jaden Daniels. We have all rekindled our love for Terry McLaurin and his skill set and guys like De'Ami Brown and the running game. But it's just that. It's the running game. They have been awesome. They've been nails on the ground in every game this season. They have been able to run the football effectively. Robinson out, Eckler in, Ravens defense being really good against the run. Well, that showed up. And when Jaden Daniels is going to make plays. That's one thing we know. Jaden's going to make the throws. He made some fantastic throws yesterday, particularly the 2 touchdowns to Terry McLaurin. Awesome balls. Great job manipulating the defense. But at the end of the day, the Ravens figured out the key. Stop the run, and you'll be able to be in the football game. Because the Commanders, yes, Jaden's explosive, but they attack you with the run. That's how they beat teams offensively. The Ravens did a great job against the run yesterday. And that's, in the end, what ended up winning them the football game.
100%. That was, if there was one thing that we really hadn't seen Jaden Daniels do, it was have to play a game where the run game's not working. Have to be that drop back, come from behind. It's all on you. Pass every single time as your laptop shatters.
Well,
and that was the first time we really saw that because the run game, Austin Eckler, 21 yards on 9 carries. Jeremy McNichols, 9 yards on 2 carries. So 30 yards from his running backs on the day. And so it was all on him. And I thought he really avoided the bad costly mistake. He didn't throw a pick. He had one real bad ball, but it was on a 3rd down. They were just outside of field goal range. He was trying to make a play, threw it into Ardarius Washington's chest. So he avoided like the really negative plays. And then he had a number of balls that were in good enough position if he just had the guys to win the one-on-ones that Lamar had. Like I just went back and watching the All-22, just the difference between, now Scary Terry's good, but he was the 3rd best separator at wide receiver in that football game. And the top 2 played for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
Like those guys just create space. Zay Flowers is
unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
The way he can, so like everybody in the National Football League wants to talk about top end speed and taking the top off of defenses. And when I was in Kansas City, the casual fan would be like, it's awesome. You have Tyreek and Mecole Hardman. And I'm like, hold on, those are 2 different guys. Those are 2 completely different guys. Yes, Mecole Hardman's a track sprinter and can run down the field. And Zay Flowers can do that too. He can run really fast. But it's the stopping. It's the changing of direction. It's the ability to catch the ball and pirouette. And it's something that a guy like Kelsey does and has done for the last decade. He's quicker than he is fast. Zay Flowers might be quicker than he is fast, and he's the fastest guy in the field.
One of the most important things you can do as a football player is be able to play at an angle. And the greater the angle you can play at, the
ankle
more
flexion.
Dangerous. Yes, ankle flexion, but just body control as well. The more dangerous you are. And I watched some of these. I have some screenshots on my computer of Zay Flowers, and the man is just like 45-degree angle. You saw him on the big screen early on. I loved Isaiah Likely's effort there on that screen as well. And I think I got to give a hat tip to Todd Monken, this offense coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. And now he's got a lot at his disposal, yes. But this Ravens offense is so tough to stop because you have to prepare for so much that they throw at you with their 2 tight end looks, with those 2 speedsters on the outside, and the diversity of this running game that gets Lamar Jackson involved. It's just, they're finding easy buttons everywhere when you flip on the tape. And there's just play after play after play where it's just like, I don't know what you do as a defense to stop these guys.
And there's
truly
been coordinators in the past who have a litany of talent on their offense, and it's almost like their biggest bad thing. It's like they have too many guys that they have to distribute the ball to. You know, I look at Atlanta last year with a group that had all these skill players, and people are like scratching their heads. You get a guy like Monken. He understands what makes this offense tick and what makes them move and how to find the chunk plays. And he knows the strengths of all his players. We look at guys like Likely and Andrews coming along in this offense. Obviously, Zay Flowers is a mainstay, but there are so many ways that they can attack you. And it puts everybody in that defense in a bind, starting with the linebackers in the middle of the field. There's so much to look at when you're playing the Ravens.
Yes. Some few more notes from my notebook. Good. To go back to Zay, I wrote, you can't guard him on outbreakers. He would go top 5 in the 2023 redraft, and it isn't even close. The guy's on a different level from all the wide receivers in that draft class right now. Also say this, from the Commanders' perspective, I love what I've seen from Mike Sainristil. Second-round corner. Now, he was a slot back at Michigan. Undersized guy, 5'10", 183. I think week 4 of the season, whatever week they played the Bengals, they said, screw it. He's our best corner. They put him outside. Ever since then, this defense has been better, and he has been their best cornerback on this roster. As a rookie, he was the only one kind of holding his own against that wide receiver duo in this game. So massive, massive W for them in the second round. And then I have to give a shout out to Cliff Kingsbury. He went to USC. He took notes, and his offense has evolved. Look at some of these screens. The flea flicker to running back screen.
I mean, that's cool.
That's like... and then there's the very next play, fake wide to tunnel screen, and just his screen game, his ability to scheme stuff up in the running game, night and day from the guy we saw back at Arizona. So hats off to Cliff Kingsbury. We've seen him evolve as a play caller.
That's both coordinators finding a way to match personnel with skill sets. I know that a lot of these coordinators want to throw the ball out to the boundary and get their linemen out there on these tunnel screens, but half the linemen in the league, they're not capable of doing that. They're not athletically able to make that happen. So for Kingsbury and his group, good on them. For Monken and the Ravens, great job. And also I want to point out 2 scoring drives for the Ravens, 93 yards and 94 yards, one of which came after a kind of a stub toe offensive drive from the Commanders. Weren't able to go get points. They punt it, short field punt to Lamar and the Ravens. They go 94 yards and score.
One of those punts where you're like,
that's the one that broke the game open.
Get us the ball back, defense. Get us the ball back.
Yes.
And then they don't get you the ball back.
Yes.
They get you the ball back 20 minutes later.
And then by the time you get down to the red area, you've been playing defense for 12, 13 plays. Next thing you know, Derrick Henry gets the football, and you're the last guy between the goal line and Derrick Henry, and you have to make a business decision. You go for the ball instead of going for the tackle. We're going to see that time and time again with this Ravens unit.
Ravens, man, they may be... They're probably the team I would least like to face right now. Last year, I thought they were in the mix because their defense was special. This year, I think this is the best offense in the NFL. I just think every single week they will put points up regardless ever since this offensive line turned around. Like once the offensive line got to a point where they're not a liability, like they were week 1 against the Chiefs.
And they're still not great. They're still not great. Lamar is under pressure, but he threw for 323 yards and a touchdown. And if you go back and look at all of his throws, a number of those throws, a guy is a hair away from him, and he is able to stand in there. Nobody takes more hits than Lamar Jackson. Down the field, in the pocket, Lamar gets hit all game. Lamar gets hit a lot.
Drake May took more hits.
Well, Drake May. We're going to have to put the Drake May tape on, and we're going to talk about that. But Lamar, not built like Drake May. You know, let's be clear about that. I give him a ton of credit for standing in there. People early in his career gave him a lot of hell about his passing game, the ability to stay in the pocket. He wants to go make plays with his legs. Well, he did that yesterday. He was able to stay in the pocket and throw the football all around.
All right, we spent a little more time on that one because that
was the marquee game of the week.
Probably going to breeze through a lot of these. The next one on this docket, Bucs Saints, big NFC South divisional rival.
50 points on a divisional opponent?
And like we thought, or at least I thought, I was like, you know, Spencer Rattler, if he plays a half decent game, like their defense could keep him in it, right? It could be a low scoring affair. I still like the Bucs side. That was obviously one of my locks of the week. But I didn't like the Bucs side because I thought they were going to put up 51 points on the Saints team. Now, they did get a defensive touchdown. There were touchdowns by a defense, a punt return, Rashid Shaheed, 6 turnovers, 3 by each team. It was one of the wildest games we've seen played all year. And probably the craziest thing that happened was this Bucs rushing offense. The explosion that we saw in this game. between Sean Tucker, who going into this game, so the second-year running back out of Syracuse, going into this game, he had 17 carries for 30 yards his entire career.
For like 1 point, how many yards per carry is that? Well, yesterday he went for 14, 130 yards. And then you look at the other guy who went for, what did he go for? 14 for 81 yards for Bucky Irving. You're looking at.
I can't wait for John Gruden's.
This is going to be
segment.
Feeling nicey, man. Sean Tucker, get him the football, man. You like football, Sean Tucker.
If you would have told me, though, that these were Hall of Fame running backs for the Buccaneers, I would have been like, yeah, I see it.
Yep.
Yeah,
and they're different styles. Bucky's got a little bit of the shake to him. And then
Tucker, the best run I've seen all
Tucker's
season.
just give him the ball and draw a Microsoft Paint straight line.
Yeah.
Just let him go.
Can we get the clip of Bucky Irving's stiff arm? The most casual stiff arm I've ever seen, I believe, in my entire life. Let's get this. He stiff arms him. I don't even see his arm come up. And he gets him to it's like
it was like one of those Mike Tyson uppercuts where he's actually standing on the other guy's toes and gets him hit. You don't even see it happen. To your point, it happened so quick. Boom.
But yeah, so that full run was probably the best run I've seen all season from any running back. But then Sean Tucker. So a little background on Sean Tucker. He was the guy for you. You probably don't. He was when he was at Syracuse. He used to tweet out after every game. I am pleased with the outcome of the game, or I am not pleased with the outcome of the game.
One sentence.
And then he would say, I am pleased with my performance. And then he would say, we lost or we won. And then he would say, I am pleased or not pleased with my performance. Yeah. Or he said, my performance was okay. He would, after every game, he'd be like, I'm pleased with our team's performance. We defeated whatever, 23-20.
He's like AI.
I am not pleased with my performance, though. I only had 56 yards on 14 carries. It was like hilarious. And so I'm hoping that we get a return of the Sean Tucker tweet. I haven't seen it yet. We do that every game. And then also before he was drafted, he didn't run the combine. He was hurt. So he posted his own video on Twitter where he claimed to have a 4.33 40, 41.5-inch vertical and 28 bench press reps. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, dude, like that was your own video on Twitter.
Looks like it was real. Looks like our guy was not lying.
Now his vision is suspect to say the least, but you get that guy in the open field. And
how about you give the Buccaneers balance offensively?
Yeah.
With a group that can throw the football all over the yard, Godwin, Evans, they do a great job. But now you add in this running game, this ability to run the football at a clip like that.
I don't need to see Rachaad White anymore this year. I'll just say it. Like those two, I think they are more complementary than like Rachaad White and Bucky Irving are kind of redundant. They do the same role. They're pass catchers. They're kind of space backs. Sean Tucker has the home run hitting ability that just like is a game changer. Did you see though Sean Alexander when he was on Up and Adams, K Adams show or whatever?
No. Love Sean Alexander though.
She asked him, what running back has impressed you most this season? He said Rachaad White. Rachaad White's averaging 3.7 per carry.
Well, maybe Sean likes him from Rachaad White.
He obviously does. This is the most impressive running back he's seen all year. But yeah, from the Bucs offensive perspective, not a great game from Baker Mayfield, but my Lord, that rushing attack, keep that, and they will win. They'll win a Super Bowl. They do that every single week. From the other perspective, though, Spencer Rattler, not the worst game if you're talking about a fifth-round rookie and projecting forward, but it was a fifth-round rookie. He was the multiple picks at the end were some bad decisions. Obviously, he was in a position where he had to drop back, he had to pass. They knew that, but some things to like. You know, he's accurate on the move. I thought they did a lot of boot action to start off the game, but if you're like a Saints fan who really is looking forward to the future, it's like, it wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything.
I'm not put off by the performance. Yeah. I was turned on by Todd Bowles' ability to adjust. They were up 17-0. Next thing you know, the lead goes down to what was it? It was 17-0, and then the lead just went away.
They were down 27-24.
They were down 27-24. 27 unanswered points, and Todd Bowles figured out how to get this thing back in the vice grip, and they changed some looks on the back end for Spencer Rattler. Obviously, what he was seeing at the beginning of the game was those seams are open. I'm just going to take the seams. That's what they're giving to me. And that's how some of these teams play when they're up 3 possessions. You know, you can afford to have 3 guys deep and leave some of those seams open. Maybe pressure, light up the quarterback a little bit. He's got to make the right decision on time. He proved that he could do that. Bowles changes. Next thing you know, it's a completely different game, and Spencer Rattler looks less than comfortable in the second half.
Yes. Not ideal. And for the Saints, just too many injuries right now, unfortunately for them. All right, on to the Jags traveling to London face the Bears.
I'll let you do this one.
Bears run away with it, 35-16. I thought the under was a lock after the first half. I'll just say it was like 10-3 at halftime, and all of a sudden it just shoots to the over.
He could have had 6 touchdowns.
Caleb, correct pick watch this week? Yes. Caleb was the correct pick, yes, this week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that Caleb correct pick watch. This is a new segment.
New segment this week.
It's a one-word segment. Yes or no?
He was great. Back shoulder touchdown to Keenan Allen was like high-level understanding of the situation. It was a third down. On a third down like that, a lot of times they're going to heat you up, right? Like you're going to get pressure. You're going to have to get that ball out quickly. You can't rely on a scramble to pick up a touchdown at that point. You just got to throw it and to know where the leverage was on that and put it on his back shoulder. Beautiful. But the biggest thing, if I'm a Bears fan watching this, that offensive line performance. What in the world? Some of the O-line turnarounds we've seen in this early season. We just talked about the Ravens and theirs.
A little snatch by Tevin Jenkins.
These were back-to-back plays in a 2-minute drill.
Quick hands, going to help your tackle out. Braxton Jones has been getting bull rush a little bit all year. Tevin knows that. He wants to help his homies out. You and I were talking about this before the show. When Tevin Jenkins is healthy, he plays like an all-pro. It doesn't matter where you put him on the offensive line. He's physical. He's huge. Yeah. He is a behemoth, and he's really strong. A big guy. What does Trump say? He's a big guy. He's one of the biggest guys. That's Tevin Jenkins, dude. He's big. He's strong. He's nasty. And the thing that I love most about Tevin Jenkins is if anything happens that he deems disrespectful to one of his teammates, he is the first guy on the scene of the crime. He is the first responder. They put Matt Pryor in there at right guard a few weeks ago next to Darnell Wright. They had Nate Davis in there. It just wasn't working. We're not going to spend a lot of time there. But you put Matt Pryor in next to Darnell Wright. It is 800 pounds of rhinoceros coming at you in a double team. And they were rolling guys. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, that's that O-line was, and now the Jags D-line, they've disappointed a little this year versus expectations, right? I think a lot of people thought this could be, with all they've invested, with all the draft picks they have there, could be one of the best in the NFL. It hasn't been, but it's still like an above average D-line. Don't get it twisted. So what they did in this game to really pretty much shut them down, there was a handful of plays where there was some pressures like fairly quickly, but it was not the norm. There was a lot of pockets that Caleb was very comfortable in, and sometimes where he was just like chilling back there on normal drop back passing concepts. So
back there painting his nails.
A+ day. And Tevin Jenkins, I don't know what the injury was early on in the season. He was never obviously on injury reports, I don't believe. But this is a different guy. That was all pro caliber left guard play that I saw from him in this game.
I think what we've seen from Tevin in his first few years, when he came out of Oklahoma State, I think it was, he had the goggle picture on scout.com. He was wearing the rec specs. Yes. I was like, I love this guy. He's going to be tough. And he's got some salt to him, some shit to him, as we'd say. And he got to the Bears and he played physically, and then he started to deal with injuries. And as a guard who dealt with injuries after being a physical player, I know how tough that is. And when you get people from the outside in saying, is this guy ever going to be healthy? You start to keep your stuff to yourself. Okay. So he wasn't on injury reports, but I know that he was probably dealing with something and he's starting to feel good. He got to get some of that EU air and he was over there in London. Next thing you know, he's shot out of a cannon, baby.
I don't think they're in the EU anymore, are they?
Well, European.
Well, EU, NA, Brexit, the whole thing, like they left.
Where are they then? Is this like the Vatican City?
Well, they're in Europe, but the EU.
Is this like Washington, D.C.? It doesn't, it's not a thing.
Welcome to geopolitical talk on pushing the pot.
Didn't think we'd get here, but European. He went to Europe, okay? London is in Europe. The Tottenham Hotspurs play in Europe.
Okay, there we go. Did we write off Shane Waldron too quickly?
Shane Waldron, dude.
Did we?
By the way, I love what you're doing, man. I had a lot of questions about you early in the season.
He's adjusted this year better than Ryan Grubb has.
I had a lot of questions about this guy early in the season. And we heard guys from his previous gig talking about how it's like, hey, good luck with him, buddy. Good luck with some of those route concepts. They look really good. And it's not the route concepts that I had questions about. It was scheming your guys up to be in advantageous situations, particularly in protection and the run game. Shane Waldron has answered those questions. I've been really happy with it.
All right, from the Jags side of the football, Trevor Lawrence back down to earth a little bit. I don't think he played poorly, though, considering the level of competition. I counted them up. 4 balls in this game, touchdowns. 4 touchdowns dropped from Trevor Lawrence, where it's just that you expect the guys to make the plays. Maybe not all of them were technically drops, Maybe PFF will
One
chart
was
them
a
all
stone
drops.
hand drop.
A number of them were, but like 4 balls that should have, you would expect to be touchdowns. None of them went down. So that's tough. It's just flat out going to be tough when your receivers don't make plays for you the way, Chicago Bears.
What's the deal with Dougie P?
Well, that's a clean house situation. We don't have to beat that dead horse every week, but I think we all know what's going to happen. There one win against the Colts that took 37 on the board ain't changing anyone's destinies, shall we say. All right, Lions, Cowboys. What was billed as the game of the week in the NFC turned out to be a laugher. We touched it off the top of the show, but it was tough.
You ever been to the Caribbean?
I've not.
You ever been to any of these islands where
islands.
They gotta you take your family takes you to a dinner on the beach, and sometimes they've got that little dock that goes out from the beach, and they're like, maybe we get mussels out of there or something. Well, if you go out on that dock and you bring some bait fish and throw it in there, every once in a while you get a bunch of tarpon that come and just destroy the fish. It's like shark feeding frenzy. That was the Cowboys against the Detroit Lions yesterday. It was so obvious who the better team was from the very beginning. I mean, it started a little bit slow. Slow. But once that fight starts to take shape, and once the game that the Detroit Lions are trying to play takes shape, it is an ass whooping. And it doesn't matter if it's the Dallas Cowboys. It doesn't matter if it's the Packers. It doesn't matter if it's name any team. That's the Detroit Lions football team that we're going to see week in, week out. They're built that way. And I know Hutch went down, but I think Coach Glenn is going to have some really creative ways to create pressure and to fill in those sack stats from the defensive line, maybe get guys from the second level involved. It'll be interesting to see. But I love the Detroit Lions right now. David Montgomery is probably my favorite running back in the NFL right now.
They are, on both sides of football, one of the most fun teams to watch. Defensively, I like watching Minnesota for schematic aspects. I like watching Detroit for how they play the game aspects, whether it's Aiden Hutchinson, and we'll get to him here in a second, Carlton Davis in press coverage, Brian Branch just like playing the game of football. That guy has football IQ off the charts. The pick he had where he's kind of going to the flat and then bounces back immediately to undercut a corner out in the end zone. That's exactly what he had to be thinking. That because he come downhill, but he knew immediately that he came back under that route.
And then he caught one as a center fielder.
Yeah, Kirby Joseph, his range on the back end, just so many guys on this football team that are Ali McNeil on the interior that are just amazing to watch. But man, the 2 injuries that they suffered, Aiden Hutchinson out for the season with one of the most unlucky injuries I've ever seen.
Played it up.
To get a tib fib from basically slingshotting himself by wrapping around Dak Prescott. He leg whipped himself right into Ali McNeil's lower leg.
That's how I broke my leg on Chris Jones.
Really?
Same way. I wasn't sacking the quarterback, but it was a similar action, that leg whip action.
And then just caught it at the wrong.
It was Chris's leg that swung around and hit my knee, and he drinks more milk than I do. So,
dude, that one was tough to see because Aiden this season, his array of pass rushing moves, been doing this for 12 years, doing NFL analysis, watching in depth, the number that he had at his disposal is just unlike any pass rusher. Like, just watch some of these on your screen here. This hand flash to outside hit, the 2-hand flash to inside.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a guy who understands.
That's a confident rusher. And sometimes when you watch offensive linemen, really elite offensive linemen, they flash their hands, they show you something, they take it away. This is an example of an edge rusher who is at the top of his game. He's manipulating the way that offensive linemen have to go about blocking him. And he's not just a skilled pass rusher. I think the one thing that we all forget is,
he's got traits. Yeah.
I mean, he plays the run too, but he is so big. Mm-hmm. And Max Crosby, when we watch a guy like Max Crosby, he looks bigger than Aiden Hutchinson because of the fact that he's leaner. He's trimmer cut. He's a skinnier. He's got
longer arms.
He's not skinny, longer arms. But Aiden Hutchinson is every bit as big as Max Crosby, and he's thicker. So he's delivering these moves, these edge rushing moves, and he knows the O-linemen have fear of him going down the middle. He knows that exists. And it kind of reminds me of Chris Jones, to be honest. You sit here for power. You wait for this big, strong guy to run down your middle and bull rush you into the lap of the quarterback. Next thing you know, he's flashed hands, he's swatted you away, and he's on your edge. It's been so much fun to watch Aiden Hutchinson. He is the epitome of what Dan Campbell wants his football players to play like. The guy never leaves the field. The only time he left the field is on a golf cart on his way out.
I will say that there's as much as they can backfill, and it's not like their pass rush is going to fall off a cliff and be non-existent. That's massive. Just flat out, he was a game changer every single
And they've got
game,
Davenport out on the other side, too.
So really rough. But then the other one, see Carlton Davis's injury?
Oh, he got kicked in the head.
In the head.
His helmet
gets
in the
knocked
head
off.
on the replay. They were like, "Oh, he got sandwiched on the ground by a chest. His helmet came off. The broadcast booth was like, "Ooh, that sucks." Brady was like, "Man, that's tough." And then a leg whip comes.
Almost the exact same mechanism of someone swinging around and then heel into his forehead. Just two of the unluckiest injuries. But yeah, he was knocked out.
That's brutal.
He was concussed there. So really bad luck.
And maybe punctured. And, sometimes you get those puncture wounds where there's no blood. It's so deep and clean that there's no blood. It's just the white meat. That could have been it. I don't know.
It was brutal. Ben Johnson, hats off to him. But getting 2 scheme touches, 0 OTs. That's vile. That's showboating at that point. When you're trying to throw... Look at this.
This is my favorite one. This is my favorite one because he lets his big guy 70 get out front and lead block for Penei Sewell. He's probably supposed to take that thing inside, but Penei's eyes got so friggin' big, like John Gruden during one of his social media segments, and he just took that thing to the pylon and went in. I saw him take that giant strike on the thigh board, and if you watch it in slow motion, you feel bad for the defender that hits Penei Sewell because he is an actual freight train.
Yeah. I would do more of that.
That's so sexy. Ben Johnson, call me Ben Johnson. I will quit today if you let me go and get a couple laterals. I will quit today.
If I'm Mike McCarthy, though, I'm not shaking hands after that game. That's
brutal.
You can't try to force a OT touchdown down my throat when you're up 30 points and expect me to shake your hand. Yeah, next week Lions Vikings, a 1 p.m. game though. That game just right now feels wrong being a 1 p.m. game. Just flex it to the prime time.
I love that it's a 1 p.m. game.
It feels wrong.
As a player,
I know.
For the 1 p.m. game, you wake up, you have your pancakes, you pack your dip, and you get your coffee. You go straight to the stadium. You see beautiful people walking around whatever city you're in, people getting ready for the game. You see your jersey, maybe.
Minnesota.
What?
Probably not in Minnesota.
It'll be beautiful still. You're like at 10,000 lakes there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful state. But the point is, 1 o'clock games, it's easier for you to take that energy you had built up all week and just unload it on Sunday early in the day. When you got to sit around in that hotel all day, it sucks. Fans love primetime games. It looks great on TV when they're at night or that afternoon window when you get the golden hour. That looks really cool. I want a 1 p.m. game. Mono. Meet me on Main Street at the strike of 1 p.m. and we're going to duel this thing out.
Did you see the Lions fan grittying next to the puking Cowboys fan?
The kid. So yeah, this poor gal is just,
going through it,
pulling trig over there at the mezzanine level at Jerry's World, right in the middle. Didn't even walk off to the side. I don't know if we have this video.
Been there.
We probably shouldn't play this video, but she's puking. Her boyfriend or brother or dad, I would imagine, holding the hair, being a good teammate, and then you get the young kid. It was a Lions fan grittying. And then there was a Cowboys kid fan
who starts grittying.
That was also grittying.
Because like a 12-year-old can't see a gritty without they themselves then doing the gritty.
It's incredible. It's like yawning, the kid sees a
yawning
gritty.
For Jet Alpha.
He's like, oh, I gotta hit my goggles now.
Oh my God.
All timer. Probably the best thing to come out of Dallas yesterday was that video.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. All right.
The gritty matched his gritty.
On to the Cardinals at Packers. Another laugher. Packers run away 34-13. They look
Jordan
down
Love, he doesn't suck, okay? He's pretty good. He's pretty good at football.
Doesn't suck, but more so, it wasn't, he didn't have to do much, truthfully. That was kind of just, now he made some big boy throws. The 4th down to Christian Watson was one of those men from the boys type of throws. It was kind of like
the deep over?
No, just dig on the middle of the football field. Here we have the inside view. That's a throw that just
Yeah, that's called layering the football. And when I hear Phil Simms, I used to work with Phil Simms at NFL Today and Tops, and he would say, look, the great ones can layer the ball. All these young quarterbacks want to go there and rocket throw everything and get it to guys on a laser. But the great quarterbacks understand how to layer the defense, be able to find those avenues to put the football. He finds a landing spot for Christian Watson there, and they connected again later on or before, I forget. But it was beautiful too, and that was an adjustment. That was an adjustment they made on the sideline. They were over there talking on the sideline, like Christian Watson was like, "Yo, Jay Love, I need you to hit me on this one. This is what I'm seeing from the coverage." They go out with the confidence that LaFleur instills in them, and they're able to hit that ball for the touchdown. They're so much fun. 3 touchdowns early for Jordan Love. Just business as usual. The guy's healthy. He answered a lot of questions, in my opinion, about his health.
Yes, I think this is I don't want to say the first game, but like this is what you expect. This is what you expected from Jordan Love this year. From the Cardinals' perspective, 3 lost fumbles on the day and a Marvin Harrison concussion early on.
I give him credit. He tried to get back up.
Yeah.
And then he went back down.
And he was back down. From their perspective, once he went down, it was kind of, they just didn't have the horses to get it done. Just a little too lacking on the outside one-on-one. But I will say Trey McBride looked very good in this game. He's looked very good all year. He's easily top 10 tight end in the NFL, borderline top 5. Garrett Williams on the other side of the football, if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan, this is kind of like what you're looking for at this point. Young player stepping up, second-year corner. When they drafted him, had a torn ACL, so really didn't expect much out of him. He's looked awesome this year, easily their best corner, in my opinion. He had himself a good game. I think a couple pass breakups in this one. But from the Packers' perspective, a few things I have to get through here, as obviously a resident Packers fan. One, rotating right guard. Jordan Morgan, Sean Ryan. They're both playing well. What do you do I assume you never rotate. I don't think you ever rotated over the course of your career, but were you ever privy to rotations on the offensive line? And what are those like during the season when
I was
both guys are actually playing good? It has to be tough.
It never happened in the NFL. I was never asked to rotate with anybody. I don't remember anybody that I played with rotating per se.
I don't love it, but yeah.
When I was at Oregon, Chip Kelly employed some of this hockey line train of thought with a few guys. If a guy needs a breather or whatever, they can
because you were running
fresh bodies in. We ran a lot there, and I think there's some value there. But I also think there's tremendous amount of value in keeping a guy out there. If he's playing well, keep him out there. You hear defensive linemen, particularly pass rushers, talk about getting into the flow of the game. They need to get a block. They need to get blocked a few times to be able to win. Same thing with an offensive lineman. You need to go out there and string drives together. Your story isn't written in one drive. You need the opportunity to go out there and do it time in, time out. So for the rotational thing, obviously LaFleur's thinking there's some benefit there. But as an offensive lineman, if I'm rotating, I'm kind of pissed.
I just hope one of them can play center, because that's the real weak link.
Jordan Morgan at center. What can he do?
Yeah. Romeo Doubs back this week. We didn't get to touch on this really last week, but
I'd love to touch on it.
You were in a locker room with maybe the most famous wide receiver for discussing mental health issues in NFL history, right? Brandon Marshall. That was he was very open about it over the course of his Bears career. And Romeo Doubs, we don't have all the details about what went on, but it was basically, they said, mental health break that he needed last week, got suspended from that game. What do those discussions look like in a locker room? How did that go when you were back with the Bears and Brandon?
It all depends on your locker room. I've never discussed this publicly, but I remember we were in joint practices in Indianapolis against the Colts. Andrew Luck was still playing. I think it was 2015. And we were down there, and, we weren't a great football team. We were under a lot of pressure as a football team, like Romeo Doubs is being on the Green Bay Packers. And it's something that's, it's the same in every locker room. These guys are under so much pressure to perform, and day in, day out, you have to wake up and be the best version of yourself. I remember I had to, something as little as I went into the locker room, and Matt Slauson, who's a veteran, great friend of mine to this day, had put a jock strap over my helmet, as a prank. When I got to the locker room, there's going to be a jock strap over my helmet.
Sick prank.
And I remember I didn't take it as a joke. I took it in a real sensitive way, and I was offended by it. And I remember that being the straw that broke the camel's back. And I walked out of the locker room before a practice, and I went and I sat on our bus, which was outside. I sat in the back of the bus, and I cried my eyes out. And it was like the culmination of all this pressure, all these expectations. Yeah. I'm supposed to be the guy. I'm supposed to be the alpha. And like something like that can snap you. I don't know exactly what Romeo Doubs is going through, but I can tell you it's not foreign to hear that a player is dealing with some mental health stuff. And he's human like you and me. And there's things that we go through as players, whether it's significant or insignificant, and we could take it a certain way or we could just feel a certain way. So for Romeo Doubs, you have a great locker room that has obviously embraced you. You've got an OC.
You saw it after the touchdown.
You got an OC and a quarterback who want to get you involved in the game plan, make you feel a part of. And I think that's the most important part. When you go back from that bus that I was on. And by the way, first guy to come sit on the bus with me when I'm in the back of the bus was Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
And not only did he realize that he needed me, but I needed him in that moment. And you need your teammates in the NFL. There's a reason it's a team game. It's a people business. So I give a tremendous amount of credit to the Packers for rallying around their guy, Romeo Doubs. And I give Romeo a tremendous amount of credit for taking the time that he needed and not being embarrassed about it, because that's the most manly thing you can do is take care of yourself, self-preservation. And for him to come back and have a great game speaks volumes about the team and about Romeo Doubs.
I said it before last week. He's their best outside wide receiver. They need him in the lineup if they really want to go where they want to go. So very nice to see him back making plays. A few more notes on the Packers. Last week against the Rams, they kind of shuffled things up. And so Keyshawn Nixon, who's their kick returner and been their slot corner, they moved him outside and then moved Javon Bullard to the slot and put Evan Williams starting at safety. So they now have, at times, 3 starting rookies on this defense between those two, Bullard, their second rounder, Evan Williams, their fourth rounder, and then Edgerrin Cooper, whose snaps are increasing every single week at linebacker, who, let's just say, he already looks like their best linebacker, and it's not even close. As soon as this guy gets up to speed in the playbook, he is going to be a dude at the next level. You see some high-level plays from him on tape already. But I think that's changed this defense. Nixon has looked good on the outside. Bullard is awesome in the slot, especially against the run. Definitely adds an element that they didn't have when Nixon was in there against the run. And then Evan Williams, man, another forced fumble in this game, gets a tackle on Kyler Murray in the backfield. He looks, the Packers rookie defensive class, those 3 guys they drafted all look like
they're
hits
going to grow together.
So
just like we talked about that receiving core for Green Bay, they've been able to grow together, and we're looking at the maturation of that group. It's the same thing on the defensive side of the ball. And I mean, 17 takeaways through 6 games. The biggest thing that I thought happened yesterday was they had a really good rush plan for Kyler Murray. We know that this Packers front isn't getting home at the rate that they want to get home in terms of sacking the quarterback. But when you're playing against Kyler Murray, you want to limit those explosive plays. You want to keep him at bay. They did a really good job of that. I got to give them credit.
All right, we're going to take a quick break after that. Going to get to some tough ones throughout the NFL, as there was a lot of blowouts.
It's a team almost too good to be true.
You guys ain't ready for us.
Kick your game day off right as the Tops team tackles all the biggest headlines around the league.
Who's got 2 thumbs and loves this next segment?
Sunday mornings on CBS Sports Network.
All right, on to Steelers at Raiders. Run away with a 32-13 victory as 3-point favorites. The over hits in that one, 36.5 points. Steelers offense, though, and specifically the running game, got rolling. But to me, this is why you don't bench Justin Fields now that Russell Wilson's back healthy. Objectively, not his best day as a passer. He missed a good
Russell
number of throws.
can't do what he can do on the ground.
But that's exactly what I was going to say. You had the 4th down touchdown scramble. You had numerous others. And then just the threat of him opening up stuff for the rushing lanes, because let's just face it, this offense isn't going to be good. You don't have the talent to be a good offense. You just don't. When you're banged up as they are on the offensive line, when you have your best wide receiver being a diva and then literally no one else after him being a capable wide receiver to speak of.
You said it, not me.
That's a recipe for bad offense.
Yep.
But when you have a guy who can just make plays on his own outside of all that, when nothing's there, that Russell Wilson used to be able to do, but flat out can't anymore. So let's just call it like it is. He doesn't have that aspect to his game. You got to roll with Fields. You just have to. It just raises your ceiling. And for as much as he's missing throws, he's not really putting a ton of balls in harm's way. He did have one bad throw in this game. but not a lot over the course of the season so far. So if he's not turning it over and gives you that high floor as a runner, yeah, I'm not flipping to Russell Wilson at all.
Now, if TJ Watt was not on the Steelers team, would we be having a different conversation today?
Well, obviously they wouldn't be where they are from a record perspective, but it's also just
I'm in agreement with you on Justin Fields. I think that it gives your offense that X factor. It gives that defense that real legitimate threat of there could be something unplanned that happens on this play. Sure, we can stop the routes. We know the mesh concept. We know the go balls. We know the running game. But how can you stop Justin Fields when the play breaks down? To your point, I don't think Russell Wilson has that in the tank at this age as a quarterback. He would have to be a pocket guy. I feel like he would take a lot of sacks in the Pittsburgh uniform. And I would, I would just say this. If you're a Steelers fan, stick with this Justin Fields situation. He's going to get better. He has gotten better as a player since the time he came into the league. And I think he does give you the best chance to win in your locker room.
100%. All right. Then AOC, you'd hit off him off the top, even if you're trying to say Aiden Hutchinson. But
it's funny because I don't even say Aiden O'Connell. I say AOC.
He was not great. I mean, Minshew benching was a lot like the Jacoby Brissett benching in that I don't think there was a lot of plays left out on the football field. Just like you don't have great talent around you, you're not going to put up great numbers. But AOC, I don't think is the answer. I wrote here, I think the biggest thing is he's not accurate enough for his risk tolerance. He has a high risk tolerance. He's throwing into coverage a lot. Had a pick in this one. Had another one that should have been a pick six.
Turnover-worthy balls.
And had a batted pass that was going to be in Patrick Queen's chest had it not gotten batted at the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, he does some things well. Throws well in timing. He's quick getting the football out of his hands, but there's just too many, oh no, why'd he throw that a game? Dating back to pretty much any time we've seen AOC at the NFL level, and even dating back to his time at Purdue, to where I'm not sure what we've seen from at the NFL level is like encouraging looking forward that I'm going to, not try to give my best shot to win this year. Because if you're Antonio Pierce, I'm not sure he's guaranteed anything beyond this year, especially with how this year has gone for him.
We got coaches getting pushed.
Yeah. So
you got social media.
I'm doing what's
liked.
I'm trying to win games this year. And to me, winning games, Minshew right now probably gives you your best chance.
Yeah, the story in Las Vegas is the word I would say is just distraction, right? And that's the way it's been in Las Vegas or in the silver and black for quite some time now. And if you're Antonio Pierce, you need to find a way to project to the masses that there is no distractions here. We're playing football. We can win football games. And to your point, you don't know how long that leash is for Antonio Pierce. So you got to find a way to win games. It's a tough spot. It's a really tough spot this Raiders football team is in.
I don't think it's going to get any less tough.
Yeah.
As we go forward.
I'm trying to be partial and neutral.
All right, on to the Texans, traveling to New England to face the Patriots. 41-21, they come away with the big win, cover the 7-point spread. And obviously, Texans perspective, job well done. Running game gets back on track. Joe Mixon, it just looks completely different to him. But I'll also say Dameon Pierce was back in this one, and he looked better. 2 big runs on outside zone. Remember a year ago when they switched from, I'm trying to think who their OC was 2 years ago, but whatever, to Bobby Slowick last year, and they switched to a zone-heavy scheme. He looked lost. He was not a guy, he had run gap scheme, a lot of power, a lot of counter. That was his bread and butter. And he did not adjust well last year. And so in his first game this year of really getting some run, to see him one cut, reading it correctly for 2 big plays.
Pressing backers.
Huge from the Texans' perspective. Gives you a little insurance because, yeah, it's different with Mixon in the game. He looked awesome in this one. But to have that second guy who you can rely on too, who can be a problem, because Dameon Pierce, like one-on-one, is the guy that's going to break tackles at a really high clip. He is one of the strongest runners in the NFL. It was just his and you saw that his rookie year. It was just his vision last year was a nightmare.
For Joe Mixon, it was great to see him back on the field. Obviously, they can do so much more with this running game intact. And people were saying he looks really great coming off that ankle injury. But I will say it is the day after your first experience, coming off an injury. It's today for Joe Mixon. How does he feel today? How will he feel on Wednesday? That's the indicator. I mean, obviously, he looked great. He looked to be healthy yesterday, and their offense had a big spark. But can they string it together? Is he able to get back up on the horse next week?
We shall see, but big win for them. But the analysis we all want is Drake May. Is he him or is he not? I thought, all things considered,
looked pretty darn good.
A very encouraging start. He was, all the talk about the pressure of the Patriots offensive line.
It was there.
It was there. The second play of the game, your second drop back of the game, boot action, booting left, coming out left to roll right. He is touched by a defensive lineman before he even extends the ball for a play fake. It was unbelievable. He made a great play by not carrying through with the play fake, switching the ball to his left hand, spinning route, and still completed it for a first down. First drive, he has that terrible pick, overthrew, whatever. He had some bouts of inaccuracy throughout the game. That was probably the biggest thing, because from a decision-making perspective, from a pocket presence perspective, movement,
he was
scrambling, he looked like he'd been there before, man. He didn't look like a rookie.
And he was there at
sure.
UNC last year.
Yeah.
It's like it's nothing new for him.
He led with 36 seconds on the clock, first half, from his own 18-yard line, touchdown drive. That's like, and it was one big play to cap it off. Was a 47-yarder or something, but 3 different plays before that were nice plays to get them down the football
Stringing
field.
them together. That's the test of a young quarterback. Can you make one completion after another? It doesn't have to be home run balls. It's just finding open guys.
And this one was fantastic. He baits Derek Stingley into the flat on a cover 2 for a hole shot. That's just, you don't hit that throw unless you got an arm.
That little hitch.
And the Stingley doesn't go the flat without that little hitch. That's not open. That's a quarterback creating a window for himself, not a quarterback, because a lot of times, with bad quarterbacks, when people will do screenshots and be like, who's open? Well, against zone, a lot of times that's subjective, because you have to create guys open. You have to get them open yourselves as a quarterback more often than not at the NFL level. It's a key trait to have, is to be able to understand when the window is going to be there, or to create it yourself, and to see a guy in his very first start doing that.
We saw Caleb do that the last 2 weeks, but it's week 6. It's week 7 now. So for a Patriots fan base that have this new quarterback, you got this, baby Yoda there in Drake May. You've got some good stuff to look forward to. I think the first thing I would do if I'm a Patriots fan, I'm getting that Drake May jersey. I'm going to get the red one. I think it's
that
sweet.
One. Yeah.
The red 10 looks pretty hot to me. I'm happy with Drake May. I'm happy for him. I didn't agree with the decision to put him in there, but I can't just bitch all day about the decisions being made. I can only analyze what I see. Drake looked comfortable. I think the Patriots are in a good spot with him.
I will say, I'm so salty about my Jalen Polk over call. 2 drops. I call the over and he drops 2 balls for me. Jalen, killing me. But yeah, Drake May, if you're a Patriots fan, it was never going to look like him coming out and putting up 35 on this Texans D, right? That wasn't going to be the case. So what I saw from him, a lot of reason to be encouraged. All right, on to the Browns, Eagles, a team that doesn't have a lot of reason
This
to be
was
encouraged.
a no juice game.
This game sucked. Flat out, I have actually changed my opinion on Deshaun Watson. I've been saying Jameis. I want Deshaun Watson to start all 17 games. I want it to never turn around or look any better. I want it to be one of the worst seasons put up
So it's
all
done.
time.
So we're just done.
I want it to go in the history books, how bad Deshaun Watson was this season. He's on pace right now for 88 sacks. NFL record 76.
88 sacks.
Here's a nice little 2-play sequence. Back-to-back plays.
So bad.
One he airmails. Second one he puts at his feet. The same throw. Same spot on the football field. You just practiced it once. Oh, my God.
He's open.
But apparently, in practice, no one can hit these throws also.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently, Jameis can't hit anything.
That's the party line. This is now. Deshaun Watson hasn't just been bad. Through 6 weeks, he has the lowest total drop back EPA since that became a stat in the year 2000. Worse than Jamarcus Russell.
I was going to say, that's where Jamarcus Russell falls into that little timeline.
Worse than Jamarcus Russell. There were some amazing plays in this game. The third play of the game, he pulled an RPO to the flat. A flat RPO. So like you pull it if you think the guy in the flat's going to beat to the sideline. He pulled a flat RPO against man coverage, which means like a tight end's running away from the formation with
a
defensive
backpack
back
on him.
On his back. And so he just didn't throw it. And then he had a perfectly set up screen that he also just didn't throw. I can't remember exactly when that was in the game, but it was a setup screen. They had a blitz. They had it just perfectly set up, and he just took a sack, 15 yards, ran backwards. I was like, what in the world? I
don't know how a guy can go from looking like Deshaun Watson did early in his career to looking the way he does now. I have no explanation for it. Is it the offenses that they're running? Is it the protection? You alluded to 88 sacks, but how many of those 88 sacks at year's end will be on Deshaun Watson versus on protection or scheme? I mean, I can't imagine being a Browns fan right now when you've got these great players on your football team. It's not like the Browns are the worst roster in football. That's just not the case, Mike, right? They have a good roster.
Yes.
You are wasting the primes of some great players, including one Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, Myles Garrett. I mean, he's out there playing dinged up every single week. He has to be so frustrated to be in that locker room. It's got to be so terrible. I can't even imagine.
All right, from the Eagles' perspective, the tush push.
Get Sirianni out of there, dude.
Back in full force. 4 for 4 on the tush push. But yeah, Nick Sirianni, I don't know if we have the clip, but him chirping fans.
Clown behavior.
And then the kneel down.
Clown.
If that was a cornerback, the most flamboyantly
it could be Jalen Carter or CJGJ, but not
and we would
Nick
be calling. But even then, we'd be like, clown.
This guy's a dork.
We'd be like, that's the guy you don't like. No one likes that guy. No one likes that guy who's actively now. Maybe you hit him with one comeback as you're walking off the football field, sure, but to just be sitting there like going to the ear
like a 14-year-old. And then in his post-game press conference, he has his son sitting on his lap so that when he's asked about the question, he can just wink at the reporter and be like, oh, that was nothing. We're not doing this in front of the kid. I'm all about having your kids in the clubhouse at the post-game press conference, but answer the questions. Answer the questions. You gotta answer the music, right? Was that what they say? Answer the music? Sing to the music?
You gotta face the music.
Face the music.
What's that come from?
Do all the things to the music.
Is that like a...
Can we ask Harry? Harry's a smart guy. Harry, what does it mean when they say face the music? Was that like a punishment in the old days? You had to listen to like Britney Spears on a loop?
I wonder if like when you were being like hung or something, you had to watch.
They were playing music.
Maybe. I'm just spitballing of what it could be. But
terrible. Well,
I'll see if anyone knows in chat. Jalen Hurts, the numbers look good at the end of the game. 16-25, 264 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, but it wasn't good. It was not. It was still the rough Eagles offense. There were just a handful of big plays scattered in from some broken coverages or from some great plays at the catch point from A.J. Brown. But on a consistency basis, it was not there for the Eagles. I had to laugh, though. I've been railing against the Eagles' usage of 2 tight ends this year and what Kellen Moore has done because they've blown up so many runs. Their second tight end, Grant Calcaterra. And in this game, Dallas Goedert goes down like 2 plays in the game. And so they obviously elevate Grant Calcaterra tight end 1 by all means. They don't adjust their game plan. They play Jack Stoll 39 snaps in this game, the majority of snaps on offense. And he blew up like 3 different runs. He's their third tight end. He's not a blocking tight end. The guy's like sub 250 pounds. He's not in there for that. But they were still using it. O-line's doing the job. You watch every run play.
That's
it's like
the most frustrating hat on hat situation.
And then these 2 undersized tight ends are just getting thrown around. You got to adjust the game plan if Dallas Goedert goes out. You can't just say, we're going to run all our
stick to our guns
12 personnel stuff we wanted to run.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest win in football. So NFL and CBS says face the music's origin is debated, but it may involve either theater, overcoming stage fright to face the orchestra on stage, or the military. Thank you for that explanation. Great. It makes sense now, okay? Every day, Mike and I have to face the music, the intro music for Pushing the Pile, and then we get to go out here against all of our fears and talk about some ball.
I have no fears about talking ball. And another man who had no fears was Cooper DeJean in his first NFL start.
What did you see from our guy?
He made some plays, man. Now, obviously, again, you didn't have to cover against the Browns team because Deshaun didn't want to throw it. And when he did, it wasn't going to go where it wanted to go anyways. But there were some great plays. He had some slot blitzes that got home. He had a blitz against Jack Conklin. I don't know if we have this play. Look at this. Through him. You see a slot cornerback doing that to an OT. Watch the right tackle here.
Boom. Okay, you know what, Conklin? You didn't see him.
I think he did.
I think he had. Okay, it was he saw him late. And also, when you're a little tired as an offensive lineman in your middle of the drive, things get on you quickly. And when you got a pirating defensive end or this cross-face edge rusher, things show up in your face really quick. You can't get your feet in the ground. Next thing you know, you're getting quasi-flat-backed by a secondary player. That's not a spot you want to be in at all.
So he was good off the edge on some blitzes, had a nice play in coverage, tracking Elijah Moore across formation, but, encouraging start. And him and Quinion's looked great. We've said it all this season. He's probably been their best corner. Cooper, encouraging. Not a lot, obviously, to glean. We'll see him get tested.
Way to go, Coop.
More. All right, on to the Bengals Giants. Sunday Night Football. Another
Joe Burrow's still running.
Slogger. Yeah, dude, Joey. Flashing the speed. I mean,
Well, it's like in zone
game.
coverage, you're going to see eyes, you're going to see chests. And then when they get into man coverage and you've got this concept of getting everybody across the field, they go, man, there's nobody there. Joe Burrow senses it in an instant and gets out the gate. So much fun to watch. They asked him if he's ever ran so far. He said maybe 80 yards in elementary school. So pretty cool for Joe Burrow.
That was nice. Obviously, the passing attack was struggling to get on track because we said the Giants D-line, a monster, and especially the interior pressure.
Okay.
Brian Burns.
People want to give
Orlando
Burns a
Brown.
lot of credit, and I do too. Great job, Brian Burns. You're a really good rusher. But Amarius Mims, there are points in the game when I'm like, what are we doing? What's your thought here?
Well, the one he didn't get off the ball.
Well, that one.
Yeah.
No. But the rush plan, like your protection plan, every offensive lineman goes into a game with a plan. I'm not sure what Mims is yet. I think step number one, getting him some offensive line gloves. He looks out of place without gloves. It looks weird. You tape the wrists, you go no gloves. You kind of look like that big high school guy that the teachers see in the hallway and they say, do you play football, son? No, I don't. Well, you could come play for me. And you show up and you forget gloves and you look out of place. Step one, get some gloves. Step two, stay inside out.
I couldn't imagine playing with that. Gloves are just like, they're a cheat code.
Yes.
Went back in the day, who was it? Nick O'Leary, the tight end, would not wear gloves. It's just like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
You're
But tight end, I'm
you're
talking
like a
about
show-off.
offensive line. You are literally smashing your hands every single play multiple times. The thing about gloves that I love, the offensive lineman gloves, they give you a little bit of padding right here, a little bit of padding at the bottom so you can strike guys. And then the other side of your hands, the knuckles are protected by big pads. Receiver gloves, they don't have that. Nick O'Leary, a tight end, wouldn't be wearing those gloves. Offensive line, take advantage. Get your glove in.
I wouldn't be surprised if Mims started not wearing gloves in high school because he has 11.25-inch hands.
That's pretty much what I have.
You got 11, right?
11. He's got a quarter inch on me.
Quarter inch.
Quarter inch.
My girl says that matters a lot. All right.
Orlando Brown got in trouble overset.
Yeah.
You got to stay inside out. You're a massive guy. You're a mountain of a man. And I'm not telling OB anything that he wouldn't be hearing in the offensive line meeting. I love the way he's been playing. He's been playing like a man possessed for this Bengals offense. He got in trouble one time. He had an overset on Burns. When you got these rangy, speedy, twitchy guys, particularly these lean, wiggly guys, you want to get off the ball quick. You get off the ball quick, they got the easiest path to the quarterback as a straight line. Inside out, that'll quell your doubts.
I will say my hypothesis that the Bengals defense was still salvageable, that they kind of we overreacted to them facing two of the best offenses in the NFL. Not overreacted, but just like they could still get it done. We saw it in this one.
Hendrickson put Thomas in a bind.
Hendrickson's one of those unique rushers that still beats the elite guys. Usually when it's elite on elite offense tends to win. Hendrickson, something about him, just the way he rushes, he can get to that edge against anyone. Mike Hilton back was huge too. Key fourth down pass breakup for them. They didn't have him the past few weeks. He's obviously massive to what they do from the slot. From the Giants' perspective, one good, one bad. Jalen Hyatt, I just don't think he's an impact player, unfortunately. He had multiple opportunities to make plays in this one. Some go balls that he got bodied to the sideline by Cam Taylor-Britt. That's just, if you're a 4-3, and now he was a 4-4-1 guy coming out, but he was built for his speed. When you're a speed guy and you can't win go balls on the outside, though, I don't know what he's going to do.
Daniel wasn't short on some of these throws.
No, yeah.
Like
it was just
2 weeks ago, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago, he couldn't hit a deep ball.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't get it there. It looked like Tua trying to throw a deep ball. Now we're seeing Daniel put that ball down there, giving his guys a chance. But to your point, Jalen Hyatt, go make a play.
Yeah. But on the flip side, Tyrone Tracy's your running back one here, man. Even when Devin Singletary comes back. Now, only 2.9 yards per carry, but 3 short yardage conversions involved in that. A fourth down, a touchdown at the 1. Like, his numbers are diminished because of that, and also just because the Bengals D-line finally showed up. The defensive interior was back at full strength with BJ Hill, Sheldon Rankins back, so they finally could stop the run. I really only saw one, when you talked about vision from guys transferring from wide receiver, which you played 5 years at in college, then 1 year of running back, transferring wide receiver running back, you worry about how they're going to find holes, how they're going to run between the tackles. I really only saw one bad decision all day from like a where to go off perspective, point of attack versus
Aiming
where he should have
point.
hit. And it was on outside zone from the gun, which is probably the hardest run concept to run as a running back.
Because there's 4 options for you.
Because your angle is an atrocity too. You're so flat to the line of scrimmage that he ended up bouncing it out when there was 2 guys on the outside instead of doing a one cut up back. But you just like, you can't see it as well because you're so lateral instead of actually seeing where you want to go.
These gun outside zone runs with the back opposite, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's say he's on the left, he's going to the right. They often preach to these running backs that the backside is the front side.
You just got to hit it.
So it's outside zone to the right, but the reality is look for the bend, look for the cut. And it's all dictated and predicated on what you do with the second level defenders, which is why you see on those zones, they press it really hard at the beginning. They get the second level to commit, run over the top or run through. And that's when you make your decision. Are they running through? Well, I'm going to keep it outside on my aiming point. Do they run over the top? Now they got 2 guys in one gap on the outside. Bring it up right behind that double team or find that center's block on the second level. That's what gets it to be a home run ball. But you see these guys that are inexperienced with the outside zone game, and they immediately want to bounce it. They want to run around everything. This is the NFL. You can't run around everybody. You got to find a way to knife them where they ain't.
And then as a pass catcher, Tracy just night and day from Singletary. So I think he's their guy.
Without question.
Yeah. All right, on to the Falcons at Panthers, which we are not going to spend a lot of time on.
We're going to just mumble into the
forward.
mic for 2 minutes and we're going to the Falcons and the Panthers.
Falcons win 38-20 in Carolina. That's 6.5-point favorites. They ran the rock, but everyone's going to run the rock against this Panthers defensive line because it's the worst defensive line in football. So a get right game for the O-line that just, I don't know how much more we need to really discuss. Bijan and Tyler Algier, both 100+ yards from scrimmage and a rushing touchdown.
You told me last year that Algier was the guy. I wouldn't know what I would tell you.
Yeah.
But you watch him on tape, and I'm like, give him the ball a dozen more times.
He's got great vision. We talk about guys who like understand how to run outside zone. He is one of the best. I mean, he's been doing it. Did it for 3 years at BYU. Did it in Atlanta for a year before Bijan even showed up. And that's kind of the guy is a well-oiled machine in that regard. So really can't go wrong in the backfield there for Atlanta. And from Carolina's perspective, we'll just start talking about the draft. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Cam Ward will be your future quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, and you should be excited about it.
So that's the guy.
I think it's
Cam Ward's the guy for this draft class.
I feel like at this point, that's who I want.
For those of you at home, I don't watch a ton of college football. I watch Oregon Ducks. Why you don't have Dylan Gabriel as the number 1 pick? You know, we can talk about that. I don't even know if he's draft eligible, to be honest.
He's like a 6th year.
But if you say Cam Ward, I'm all in on Cam Ward.
You know Dylan Gabriel's history? He could have been one of the shorter quarterbacks like a Bryce Young or a Kyler Murray that goes highly because he used to be like a real deal runner back when he was at UCF. This is his 3rd stop now at Oregon, but he had a fully dislocated knee. It took him like a year and a half to even get back to playing football, almost 2 years. And just, he used to be dynamic as a runner.
So
but
Cam
kind of
Ward
lost that after his
Panther
game.
is what you're thinking.
That's what I'm thinking.
How big is Cam Ward?
6'2", 215.
Do you, if
Maybe
you're the
220.
Panthers, do you draft a 6'6" guy now?
Yeah, you just
He's
who's the
7
tallest? I'm trying to think. Who's
It's
the
not
tallest QB
funny,
in college.
Panthers fans, but it's funny to us.
It's a little funny. All right, Colts Titans, an actual close game here, even if the implications for either side aren't that thrilling. Colts though win 20-17. The under hits.
Will Levis killed a guy.
Will Levis. You just got to know, though, if you're on the sideline and Will Levis is playing quarterback, you got to have your head on a swivel.
Play is
dude.
not over.
He is going to be coming at the out-of-bounds stripe, 20+ miles an hour.
Yep.
Lateral to the turf. It's
Just
basically
greased
heat-seeking
up with
missile. dude.
mayonnaise.
Yeah. You got to be working. You got to have the legs stretched out working on your vertical pregame because you're going to have to get over the top of this guy.
We talked about this before. So much extra shit on the sidelines. There's so many dangers to being one of these sideline crew, whether you're part of that the first down
Chain.
marker crew. I'm
Yeah,
not
you
saying
don't wanna
chain
say
gang. I canceled that week 3.
Well, you did just say
If you're part, yeah, I did. Canceled. If you're anywhere on the sideline in the NFL, it is so dangerous, and players know the inherent risks of being on the sideline. So oftentimes you'll see us off the sideline. We're not up against it. But if you get outside the middle of the field, you get this part of the field where people are literally tucked right up to the sideline. That's where things can happen. And I hate to see that for that gentleman yesterday.
That was tough. I will say this, though. In this game, the difference between the wide receiving cores was stark. I keep raving about this Colts receiving core. Do we have the Adonai whip route that he ran? One of the most beautiful.
He fell over on the whip route.
Look at this. I think it's intentional. He puts the hand to the ground. He's 6'3", 210 pounds.
It was like a breakdance whip route.
It's Legarius Sneed. Oh,
he put his hand on the ground.
That's filthy stuff.
That was you running suicides in JV basketball practice right there.
Yeah, basically.
Hand on the ground, touch the line.
For a guy, I mean, that's what you expect Josh Downs to run, right? Not a guy who's the second biggest wide receiver in that team. He's a big dude. So very impressed with them, the whole Colts receiving core. But on the flip side of the ball, the Titans look like the average age of the receiving core is 30 plus. It is, right? Like Tyler Boyd and DeAndre Hopkins, they can't be on the field at the same time because their 40s start with 4.7. They're slow. DeAndre Hopkins has lost.
They're doing the same
the
tree.
Steps. They're slow. They're just flat out very, very slow. And I think the Titans will come back to regret the nearly $100 million deal they gave to Calvin Ridley because he's already not a one. He's 3 different times in this game. Now, Will Levis didn't play well by any means, but 3 different times, one-on-one throws, man beaters against this Colts secondary that's nobody's at corner. Yep. 3 different times he loses his route. That Levis put it where it needed to be on time and just lost a route. Like that's when you pay a guy what they paid him, and that's the play you're getting. That's not ROI. That's number 2, number 3 type of wide receiver. That's not the contract they gave him, though.
No. And, we heard Calvin Ridley after the game, didn't we? We heard a little bit of Calvin Ridley. Do we have that, Harry? We've got Calvin Ridley's post-game interview. He's talking about getting targets, right? He's talking about getting targets early in the game rather than later in the game. Wants to get involved in this offense. And we know how these star players are and how important they are to the offense. But when you actually listen to him and take into account how he feels about this, I tend to agree with him. You got to just get these guys the ball as early and as often as you can. That's what gets your offense into a rhythm. They give him a lot of chances throughout the game, as you just alluded to. But sometimes when they get checked out, these receivers, they stay checked out, and it influences the way they play the rest of the 3 quarters.
The last 3 weeks for Calvin Ridley, 14 targets, 14 yards.
Checked out.
Ew. I don't think I've ever seen
checked out
that kind of futility over a stretch like that from a guy, again, gave over $20 million a year to this guy, thinking he would be fixing the receiving core. And he's 29 years old.
These are moves you can't recover from.
Going to turn 30 by the end of the season. So, yuck. Honestly, I've been hammering the Jags for the Gabe Davis, and rightfully so. He's been terrible. But at least they didn't give this guy that contract, right? At least they didn't match this, because that would have set them back even further, in my opinion.
Flacco Richardson conversation.
Flacco did not play well, though, in this game.
But it gave him a better chance to win than their guy.
I do think he's still played better.
Get the ball in those little shifty playmakers' hands.
Exactly.
Do things.
You
need a distributor in Indianapolis with the guys that you have on the field right now at receiver. You need a guy who can get them the ball in step, in rhythm, and let them do stuff with it after the catch. And I'm not quite sure that Anthony Richardson has the accuracy for that right now, the confidence to be able to do that on-schedule type of offense that Shane Steichen and this Colts offense is running right now.
Got a couple more notes, and we'll wrap it out here. Leroy Watson, right tackle for the Tennessee Titans in this game. I had not heard of him in my life before this.
Leroy Watson.
3rd-year UDFA from UTSA. He's been on 4 teams at this point.
Roadrunner.
But the Browns did trade for him for a 7th-round pick in the offseason. Or excuse me, the Browns traded him to the Titans this offseason for a 7th rounder. So Bill Callahan must have liked him, but was not good enough. He was not good in this game. He looked like a 7th round, a 3rd-year UDFA. Jarvis Brownlee, though, silver lining for the Titans. He looks good. Cornerback, his feet are awesome. He mirrored this Colts receiving core that is so difficult on a number of plays. A couple of PBUs, had a bad PI call, or was it a illegal contact, whatever it was, in my opinion, that should have been a pick. He looks like a player, 5th-round corner, one of the steals this draft. Silver lining for the Tennessee Titans. All right, got to keep moving here. A couple more games to hit, and then we'll get out here. Chargers Broncos, a game that
they threw the hell out of the ball at the beginning of the game.
Early. Chargers 23, Broncos 16. the protection held up. I mean, Joe Alt was back. Rashawn Slater was back, but a hard test for this Chargers offensive line, and they passed with flying colors, in my opinion. Not a lot of people have been able to really handle these blitz packages, but they just kept methodically 20-play drive, 11-play drive, 9-play drive. Broncos had the ball for 7 minutes and 48 seconds the entire first half. The Chargers were dominating the time of possession. And Bo Nix, the tale of two halves. This week, it was more like the tale of one quarter. He had one quarter of good football, 3 quarters of whatever. But they started off this game 3 straight drives where he didn't get a drop back pass until third down. That's just, how do you want to get a young quarterback in a rhythm, right?
Give him a couple free throws to start drives.
To get this guy to just have third downs right out the gate. That's what you have to do against Chargers defense. It's been a very good defense this year. I just think is asking a lot of him. And now he held up really well when it was just, we're down by 20, pass. They know we're going to pass. And they obviously came back, put 16 on the board, and we're kind of like onside kick away from maybe making
it
this,
interesting
game. But you just got to get him a little more involved early in the game. That's craziness to just make him.
I was really happy to see Justin Herbert throw the ball with success early. He's one of these guys that we forget about in the league with all the stars at the quarterback position. But the Los Angeles Chargers have themselves a great one in Justin Herbert. He's getting healthier. They're getting back. Yeah. It was nice to see. And for a team that runs the football at will with the Chargers, to see them get back there and throw the football, I think it was like 10 of their first 12 plays were throws. And that's how you establish a rhythm. That's how you put the pressure on that defense in another way other than just running the football on physically challenging teams. Also, Harbaugh went into the blue tent. Heart palpitation.
Nice. I think it was because
nice to see he's okay.
The 20-play drive.
Was it altitude?
I think he got a little aroused there. He had some blood flowing.
He got some
a little more than he thought he would have.
The heart was pumping. Good to see Harbaugh okay. Yeah. This is the second time. Second time it's happened. It happened to him in San Francisco.
Yes. So,
but he's 2-0 against
2-0
heart arrhythmias,
which is wild. That I feel like just from a moving parts perspective, I'm trying to play. I feel like college would be more likely to give me a heart arrhythmia if I'm like, college just feels more stressful to me because you're relying on kids that are not reliable,
and you have to recruit these.
Like it just, you don't have the practice reps, you don't have.
You got to go everywhere.
You don't have the management tightness that you can have at the NFL level, but it's obviously it's
scary. You see Jim Harbaugh get pulled out of his press conference and they bring Zay Flowers up and then they have to explain to the media what's going on. It's a scary sight. I've got a brother in the league. You never want to be like, hey, we got to pull you off and talk to you about your brother.
All right, on to the 49ers at Seahawks. Back to Thursday Night Football. 49ers.
Garendo still running.
Back to atop the NFC West. Their offensive woes greatly exaggerated, in my opinion, heading into this game because they were just a lot of shooting themselves in the foot. And this one, they finally didn't do that. But then Brock Purdy, man, under pressure, absolutely nails.
Stud.
54.8% of his dropbacks, he was under pressure. He went on those dropbacks 9 of 14 for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. Oh, and he also scrambled for 2 first downs.
Per day.
That was, his ability to manipulate. He had one cool play that wasn't even a completion, but he turned around. I think it was like a quick play action fake. And it was a guard came across the formation and was going to pick up like a 3-tech. And the 3-tech just knifes in the backfield and he has nowhere to go, but just immediately knows to step right up in the pocket. He got it to George Kittle. It got broken up, but just a play that, if any quarterback takes a sack there, Deshaun Watson would take a sack there. The quarterback takes a sack there, we're just like, okay, yeah, that's just
plays dead.
That was unfortunate. Great play by the DT, whatever. To salvage that the way he did, that keeps you on schedule. That allows you to run the ball the way they do because he's not taking those negative plays or making the negative plays. So
what keeps this team dangerous? That running game. Going and drafting Dominic Puny. Guard.
Can we get the Puny clip?
Let me tell you, whether it's front side or backside, this guy, and we talked about it in the preseason, what did I say? His eyes were right more often than not. And it reminded me of a guy, Quentin Nelson, who came out and was immediately one of the best guards in the NFL when he got to the NFL. Mm-hmm. Dominic Puny provides Kyle Shanahan so much confidence in that not only the the line of scrimmage will be taken care of, play side or backside, but when there is that guard bubble, Puny can get to the second level. He knows which side to put his hat on. He knows how to finish guys. We always talked about turning a 4-yard run into a 40-yard run, and we saw that come to life with Dominic Puny leading the way on the right side of the field. We saw that with Trent Williams stretching the defensive end and Puny going to get the backside linebacker. I think there's so much confidence in Shanahan to just say, let's slam the door shut on these ball games. Let's run the football. Let's have a commitment to having that physical nature in our offense, and it shows. It takes the pressure off Brock Purdy. It lets the eyes go elsewhere from all the pieces that are missing for San Francisco and all the willful things we've said about them. If you run the ball, it solves everything. They did that, and they put the Seahawks to bed.
Do we have the clip of Dominic Puny pulling across formation to take on Draymond Jones? It was one of my favorite blocks that I saw all weekend. If we don't, I'll just describe it. Pulling across on power to take out the end who's coming around. Draymond Jones tries to wrong arm.
Trap block.
He tries to get that right shoulder inside. Dominic Puny basically just gets him, zips him up in a sleeping bag, and just holds him there. The running back runs into Puny's back, and Draymond Jones still isn't getting off this block. It was high-level stuff. I will say I don't love the Draymond Jones outside experiment. I don't think he's actually doing much of anything there. But the biggest thing, if I'm a Seahawks fan watching this game, is I am worried about Ryan Grubb, my OC, there in Seattle. Get your offense tackle some help. He let Stone Forsythe just go one-on-one with Nick Bosa the whole second half of that game. I wanted to get 5 out, but this ain't Washington.
No.
You don't have the O-line that's going to hold up against some of these top pass rushers, especially when it's Nick Bosa against Stone freaking Forsythe.
Yep.
Give the man some help so that you can
have some
give
foresight.
Geno Smith some time. There we go. Love that one. But 14 pressures for Nick Bosa, most anyone's had in a game all season, because he basically was just going one-on-one against Stone Forsythe all game. It's like, yeah, a lot of guys in the NFL, if you just let them go drop back one-on-one against a tackle like Stone Forsythe, they're going to put up numbers, and especially when it's Nick Bosa. So I've complained about it for a good portion of the year, how often he wants to go 5 out. You don't have the O-line to do it. And in this one, it really showed, because just a couple bad decisions from Geno under pressure, and that was curtains for the Seattle Seahawks. All right. Should we get to a little quick upon further review here?
Mm-hmm.
What do you got for us this week?
Upon further review, the NFC North is the best division in football. And you're sitting here with two NFC North fans. I usually hate this guy. He's a Packer. I'm a Bear. But at the end of the day, how proud are you to be able to say, we got the best division in football? We have potentially the number 1 and number 2 teams in the NFL, in the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. The Packers and the Bears are right there. They're one tough divisional rivalry game away from beating these guys. But I think anywhere you go, anybody you play, if you're from the NFC North, you got a fighting chance. And more than that, you've got complete football teams. The Packers played a really good game. The Bears played a great game. They're coming along. Their rookie quarterback is getting better. The Lions are an absolute powerhouse. The Vikings took a little camping trip this week. They had the bye week, so they're going to be rested up. I think it's so much fun. I'm so proud of all these guys. It's really great coaching. It's complete football. It's team football. NFC North, man. Best division in football. And if they ain't, tell me who is, because I'll be waiting.
I said before the season, I thought next year they would be. I thought, a couple rookie quarterbacks in the division, a couple teams on the come up, but like every single team on an upward trajectory, that 2025, we'd be saying NFC North best division.
I like this.
Christmas came early. They're the best. Upon further review, the rookie, how did I say it earlier today? The rookie dick measuring. Gotta stop.
Which is exactly what it is.
You gotta stop. We don't need to compare Caleb Williams to Jaden Daniels. We need to compare Caleb Williams to Caleb Williams.
Yep.
And how he's getting better every single week, right? Because that's what we need with rookies, is improvement. The vast majority of players at the NFL level who turn into quality starters are not great as rookies. It's just a fact of life. It's difficult to transition from college to the NFL. It doesn't happen right away.
At that position,
many guys, quarterback in particular, but I still will say elite guys, though, a lot of times quarterback, you see it as rookies. But other positions, always like guys can make progression over the course of their rookie season, second year, third year.
Yep.
We don't need to compare every single week, especially the quarterback position, but other positions as well. I go back to the 2016 draft class, which had Goff, which had Wentz, which had Dak. Year 1, Dak. Year 2, Wentz. Year 3, year 4, Goff was in the Super Bowl. It's like every single year we were like, who's better? At the end of the day, it was like, I think most of the teams were happy. Eagles are the only one who ended up winning a Super Bowl of that bunch, right? And so...
And he was on the bench.
And he ended up, exactly. So it's just something that, yeah, from fans' perspective, I get it's all fun, trash talk, but from like a realistic perspective,
people get married to their takes, Renner. You know,
get
this.
more, just like you should be more interested in just how the guy is playing on his own, because that to me is the more important part, because you're playing when you draft someone for their 3rd year, their 4th year, their 2nd contract. If you get contributions as a rookie, great.
Bonus.
You don't worry too much about it. They're rookie.
And how lucky are we? I mean, even with Drake May coming in there for the Patriots and doing a pretty good job, all things considered, we've got some great quarterbacks in this league, obviously, that are veteran superstars, but now this rookie class is coming along. And I'm tired of everybody fighting. Why can't we just get along and root for our guys?
We can. That's why we got a Packers and a Bears fan on the show. Well, except you're a Packers fan too. All right. There you have it. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, keep pushing.
Peace.